Welcome to Nostalgia. Today we're revisiting a classic game, a game that has stood against all odds in the test of time and the hearts of many around the world. What is amazing is that someone decided to remaster this game and bring it to 2023. Pharaoh in the era is just that. It's a game that brings back all the fond memories I have playing Pharaoh as a child. A game that's over 2 decades old since it was originally released, and yet this remastered version brings back blood of memories and excitement. As I started playing this game, I was instantly transported back to my childhood. The familiar loading screen, the familiar music, the familiar sense playing in ancient Egypt. And this is exactly what that is, just with updated graphics, improved mechanics. I was drawn in, and before I knew it, I had spent 20 hours immersed in this world. So, what does make Pharaoh such a fun and engaging game? Well, let's understand what it is. It is a city building simulator, a game where you get to be the ruler of an ancient Egyptian city. Your goal is to build that city, manage its resources, and keep your citizens happy, all the while managing a number of events that are happening in history from 3500 BC till the age of Cleopatra and the end of the Egyptian kingdoms. As you see here, it is set in ancient Egypt, meaning that when you look at these graphics and you look at these sound effects, they are cartoony, yes, they are amazing. It brings the city to life. Whenever you build another structure, the city feels all the more populated. Your citizens putting a snide little comment whenever they're pissed, and you find a lot of them are actually Karens. What is, for me, the most amazing part of Pharaoh is, of course, the economy building part. You have to manage the resources of your city, trade with other cities, other countries to acquire the goods you need and to thrive. Meaning that you have to make tough decisions to allocate the right amount of resources and what to build where and when. This comes at a cost. You have a limited amount of funds, and most of the money that you do get is either from taxes or from trade. Trade is really important in this game. Quite as easily as it can make you incredibly rich, it can also bankrupt you. For if you piss off your allies, piss off your neighbors, they will start charging you more, and all of a sudden your trade is incredibly unrealistically expensive. So what do I mean by your allies and neighbors start? Well, if you do not give in to a numerous laundry list of requests from the Pharaoh or other cities, this can be anything from sending them grain or sending them weapons or even sending an army. Some of them can send you something back, and in some missions you get some food or stone or anything that might be useful if you please some of them enough. This is really important to keep track of. Your standing in the kingdom is exceptionally important. It's one of the main pillars that often will decide if you win or lose. The others are culture, prosperity, and monument. But we will get to those later. While you're doing all of this, if you piss the Pharaoh enough, by the way, this is something he might send an army to destroy you and your city from the face of the map. Going at the economy screen, we have a number of things that we must keep a track of. Your resources, your trade routes, your production units. But you also must keep a tab on your taxes. Setting the prices too high, people will leave your city. The amount of money you pay your workers, and it goes on and on. The depth is incredible. Your city's prosperity can all be made abundant or destroyed by a simple tick. So be very careful when managing your economy. Something the game does really well though is introduce you to one thing at a time and allows you to get used to it. I was done with the tutorial before I knew I was in a tutorial, and sometimes that is needed for a game of this scale. Something that is incredibly fun is the fine-tuning. The more that you get to play around with, the more you have to fine-tune, and the various needs of your ever-growing city is going to require a lot of that. Your reputation, as we mentioned earlier, but also your prosperity is based on how much money you make per year. This money comes from a variety of things. Sometimes you just need to trade and you want to trade pottery, but you do not have clay in your region. So what do? You import the clay, you process it, and you sell it. A very simple economic system that finds itself to be at the core of this game. It allows you to become incredibly rich if done right. However, this is also what makes it so much fun. Sometimes you have to export and import a number of things from a variety of different regions to be able to balance this at a knife's edge. And if one of those things goes wrong, all of a sudden you find yourself in endless debt and you will lose. So be very careful. With regards to your people, they start with very simple demands. The most basic of which is food and water and a shelter to stay in. However, this quickly rises. They require free education, healthcare, and endless resources such as beer, jewelry, ivory, and ebony. It will be complex, but you will manage. It is the most satisfying part of the game once you get it right. With that out of the way, let's talk about why we all play this game. Monuments. I can sit here for hours looking at my minions, my workers, building a pyramid. I still have it on the screen right next as I'm recording this review. My city's workers slowly putting one block on top of the other, finally resulting in a pyramid. The monuments require you to stress test your economy to its limits. But then, when you've built an economy strong enough to make these marvelous, ingenious creations, you are very satisfied. You are left with this incredible satisfied feeling inside your stomach as you watch this gigantic monument. And you ask yourself, am I an ancient pharaoh? Is this a testament to the human's ingenuity? The sense of progression. As you're building your city and completing missions, you're constantly getting new things. And I just mentioned earlier that you are not inundated. Keyword, the Nile gets inundated all the time. A word that's been drilled in my head. By all the technology structures and units that the game has to offer. No, you're given them slowly. So there is a sense of progression. You're never repeating the same thing as it was, as you're getting new tools to deal with old problems and increasingly new ones. It gives you something to work out and play for that specific mission. Even though it's a game that stood the test of time, it does have things that are annoying. And one of them is the combat. This is not a combat simulator, this is not a war game, this is an economy game, so I understand that it might not be its finest point. And I do find it a bit boring, because essentially it's just a screen where you see numbers against numbers fight, and you can skip it entirely, which I guess that is fair enough. But I would love some form of satisfaction seeing my large army decimating everything in its path. It is a downside of the game because there is not much in terms of combat, even though it is an integral part of your city to build always 6 garrisons. The other thing, which is you either love it, like me, or I can understand why some people will hate it, it's the complexity for new players. The complexity doesn't come because you have incredibly complex systems, but rather you have simple systems interacting with each other in a complex way. Meaning you might get super frustrated because one single thing is not interacting with the rest for a minor reason, and all of a sudden you've lost your mission and you have to play for a few hours. Save often, it will help. The game difficulty is very high, even though on normal and a seasoned player I find myself restarting the missions 4 to 10 times. That is something I love. However, it might not be everyone's cup of tea. The final criticism is it can be repetitive unless you're always trying to find different ways to optimize your structure. I have not yet found a singular way to optimize the best build. I am sure the likes of the Spiffing Brit will do so and will make the game incredibly easier. My criticisms are minor compared to my overall enjoyment in the game. Major point is the replayability I found from having each map being different, from having each campaign mission introduce me to something different. Different events will unfold, and as the game goes through, you'll find yourself blowing your mind how complex the game can be in its mechanics. One last shout out that I must give to the sound team. You guys have done the absolute most amazing thing. You have created some incredibly unique sound effects and ambience, an ability to have the game suck you in, bring you in, and make you feel like you are the pharaoh ruling over your little kingdom. Conclusion, what do I give the game out of 10? I give it a solid 9. Please understand that a number of things affect my judgment, mostly the nostalgia of having played this with my dad as a child and bonded with this on this game for so long with him. A game that always lives in my heart and always has. It is, however, a game that does scratch that itch that I have for economy management, for city building. It is a game that brings back the essence of Pharaoh, but better. I try to be as fair as possible, but I do and must, as my responsibility, tell you this is a sponsored video. I've been sponsored by the very kind developers of this game, and I am very happy to do so because the game is absolutely amazing. I hope you enjoyed this in-depth look at the game and the discussion I've had around it. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. I will have more videos coming out on a variety of games, reviews as such. Thanks for watching, have a lovely day, and bye bye.